Hi, I'm Joe Pritchard with Kentucky Housing Corporation. Today we're going to be doing a HQS inspection training. It's going to be a basic training. It's not exhaustive, but what your inspection looks like should be similar to what we're doing here today. We're in the living room. First thing we're going to check in the living room is going to be the front door. And what we're going to look for on that are make sure it's in good shape, if there aren't any holes or large cracks. We'll look at the seals, make sure there's no light or air coming in. Checking the hardware, making sure it locks. Next thing we do is over right here we have light switches to make sure that the fixtures are working properly. And there's a protective cover here. And this is universal. We'll check this in every room. We'll check the light fixtures. We'll check the plate covers, the outlets, and the outlet covers. When we check the receptacles, we'll use a tester like this that I recommend you get. They're only $10 or so. And it tells you if the outlet is wired correctly. Now your inspector will check every outlet in the home that we're inspecting. I'm only going to do this one just for an example. Every window will also be checked for operability and to make sure it's locking properly. And so when I say operability, I mean it opens, it stays open on its own. We'll close it and lock it. It must lock properly in order to pass inspection. Another universal thing that we check are the floors, the walls, and the ceilings. Make sure they're free of defects. Like in the floors, for example, be weak spots, holes, tripping hazard in the walls. You have holes or large cracks in the ceiling, same thing. Small holes like this here are things where pictures have been hung. That won't cause an inspection to fail. But if you have something that's usually the rule of thumb we use is a postcard. If you put a note card or postcard through, then that's big enough we need to look at. Over to the kitchen. We'll check all the things we've talked about in the other places. Speaking of lights from a second ago, take light bulbs with you so we can check the fixtures just in case there happens to be a bulb burn out. It's a good idea, we won't have to fail it. In the kitchen, we've got the dishwasher here. Your inspector will look at that. They'll check the hot and cold water. While they have that running, they'll look underneath to make sure there aren't any leaks, and they'll check to make sure this pipe here is there. This is called a trap. Keeps the sewer gases from coming back up the drains. If there are any GFI outlets in here, that's the outlets that have two buttons where you can trip and reset. A lot of times you find them in places like kitchens, bathrooms, exteriors, basements. We'll check those. Those must be functioning if they're present. They'll check all of your burners and your oven. We'll check to make sure your fridge is doing its job, that it's cooling, that it seals properly when it's closed. Over here we have the water heater. Your inspector will check the inlets and outlets of the water heater up here to make sure there's no rust. A lot of times rust will start accumulating. If there's a lot of rust where it looks like it's going to deteriorate and rust through, your inspector might make comment of that. If there's just a little, it's probably not that big of a deal for now. On your water heater, you have this part right here. It's called a temperature pressure relief, or what we call a TPR valve. That must be present, and this line right here is a discharge line. That must be present too and should go within a couple inches of the ground or to the exterior. In this water heater, if this extension wasn't here and this was it, that would be a fail item. They've got it where it goes to the outside, which looks good. In the laundry area, all we're going to be looking at here are the same things we would everywhere else, plus making sure that the dryer vent is venting to the exterior. If it's just blowing dust all over and debris all over inside the walls, that's something that would cause it to fail. In the bathroom, we're going to check to make sure, first of all, you have a vent fan or a window. You must have ventilation. That's accomplished by vent fans or windows. You've got to have one of those. Also, the inspector will check the GFI outlet if it's there by tripping and resetting. They'll check and make sure there's no leaks and that the hot and cold water are working. Same thing like we would in the kitchen. The trap is there. We'll flush the toilet. Always check for leaks. Taking my foot and pressing to make sure it's not weak. This shower, your inspector will check that for hot and cold water too, make sure it's working properly. A lot of times you'll see some deterioration up on the drywall up through here. It's worth getting that fixed before inspection. In this hallway, we'll come back and hit this right fast. The only thing that we have in this hallway we would check that we haven't already talked about are the thermostat to make sure the heat and air is working, and in the breaker box, the panel here, making sure there's no large gaps or any obvious electrical problems, broken, burnt breakers, anything like that. A lot of times you'll see these twist outs will be missing and there'll be a gap there. Well, the remedy for that is a blank. They just put a blank. It's a black plastic piece you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. Doesn't cost much. It makes like a temporary cover for that. In the bedroom, you must have a couple of things in order to make it a bedroom. You gotta have a window and you gotta have a closet for it to be considered a bedroom. Apart from the other things we've mentioned, like floors, ceilings, outlets, switches, walls, and light fixtures, the thing that most bedrooms have are smoke alarms. And so we'll check that by hitting this button, and it goes off. The way Kentucky Housing does it is every level of the home must have a smoke alarm, and then each bedroom must have a smoke alarm within 8 feet. And so a lot of times you'll have one, if you have a cluster of bedrooms towards the end of the hallway, you can put one in the middle of the hallway to cover all those bedrooms as long as it's within 8 feet. Local codes and things vary, but that's the way Kentucky Housing sees it. That pretty much covers the interior of a home.